I was halfway through untangling the orange extension cord when I heard it a high-pitched, glass splintering, "Hey!" so sharp my hand froze mid-air. The Florida sun was melting everything in sight, and my little golf cart, my pride and joy, sat in my driveway plugged into the outlet by the garage. It was shaping up to be a perfectly normal Saturday morning, until she arrived. Karen, the HOA president, marched up with her visor tilted crooked, like she'd sprinted over before even finishing her coffee. She stood dead center in my driveway, arms waving, eyes darting between my golf cart and the shiny silver SUV parked across the street. "You think I wouldn't notice?" she screeched. "That's my car." I actually laughed. This is a golf cart." Her voice went nuclear. "Don't you play dumb. You stripped it, repainted it, and now you're trying to recharge it before selling it." I stared at my green golf cart, the same one with the slightly bent roof from the time I misjudged the height of the drive-through overhead. It didn't look remotely like her spotless showroom SUV. "Karen, this is literally the same golf cart I've had for 3 years, I said, trying to keep my tone level. My neighbor, Mr. Johnson, peeked over his hedge, clutching a watering can like he might need to fend off trouble. Karen stomped toward me, phone clenched like a live grenade. "You leave me no choice. I'm calling the police." I blinked. "For charging my golf cart? For theft?" she snapped, already dialing. "I have evidence. You're about to be arrested." That's when it hit me, she wasn't bluffing. She was dead serious. My pulse kicked up. A couple of kids on scooters slowed to watch. A dog barked. In the span of 30 seconds, our quiet cul-de-sac had turned into a suburban courtroom drama. I tried reasoning. "Karen, this is a misunderstanding. If you just..." She cut me off, pacing like a detective on a TV procedural. "Oh, know exactly what's happening. You're testing it before flipping it online. That's grand theft auto, buddy." I couldn't tell if I should laugh or panic. Meanwhile, the battery on my golf cart hummed quietly, blissfully unaware of the chaos. Then came the sound that made my stomach drop: sirens. Faint at first, but growing louder. Every head in the neighborhood turned toward the street. Karen's triumphant grin widened as she had just won a championship. What happened next, I was not prepared for. Flashing blue lights bounced off mailboxes and porches as 2 squad cars rolled in, slow and deliberate, as if they were about to raid a drug den instead of deal with whatever this was. Karen waved her arms wildly, signaling the officers like she was flagging down a rescue helicopter. "Officers, over here. I've caught the thief red-handed." Both officers stepped out, one tall with mirrored sunglasses, the other shorter and already scribbling notes before even acknowledging me. The neighbors, fully invested, were now pulling out folding chairs. I even spotted a bowl of popcorn. The tall officer approached. "Sir, can you tell me what's going on?" I pointed to my golf cart. I was charging it." She gestured at Karen. "Thinks it's her car." "Thanks," Karen interjected instantly. "I know. Look at the paint job." He stripped off the panels, swapped the wheels, and now he's recharging it to sell. The shorter officer blinked, looked at my golf cart, then at her sparkling SUV. "Ma'am, that's a golf cart." But Karen came prepared. She pulled out her phone and flipped to a photo. Before he messed with it, it looked exactly like this. I couldn't help it. "Karen, you're showing them a picture of your actual SUV." She ignored me and shoved the screen at the tall officer. "See? Same size. Same." He coughed into his fist, trying to hide a laugh. "Ma'am, they both have 4 wheels, but that's about it." I thought we'd finally reached the end, but Karen switched tactics instantly. "Even if it's not my car," she huffed, "it's still against HOA regulations to charge an electric vehicle outside your garage." "That's not a law," I said slowly, and I checked the HOA manual, page 23, paragraph 2. "It's allowed." The shorter officer tilted his head. "Do you have proof of that?" I sighed, went into the garage, and returned with the HOA handbook held like it was the Constitution. I flipped it open and pointed to the exact paragraph. Karen stared at the page like it was written in ancient hieroglyphics. "Well, that's an outdated version," she blurted. "It's the one you gave me," I replied. Silence. The crowd was eating this up. Mr. Johnson whispered, "Better than cable." The tall officer finally spoke. "All right, I think this clears things up. Ma'am, we can't arrest someone for charging their golf cart." Karen's jaw twitched. "You're making a huge mistake." I thought it was finally over. Then the shorter officer asked a question that punched me in the gut. "Sir, can we take a look inside your garage?" My grip tightened on the handbook. "Why? Do you need to see my garage?" "Routine check," he said with a polite, but not really a smile. "If there's a claim of stolen property, we need to make sure it's not being stored here." Karen lit up like a Christmas tree. "Yes, check inside. He probably has the rest of the parts in there." I sighed. I had nothing to hide, or so I thought. "Fine, but you're going to feel really silly." The neighbors shuffled forward as I hit the garage door button. It rattled upward, revealing a scene that taken out of context didn't exactly help my case. Against the back wall were two other golf carts, one red, one white, both half disassembled. Seats stacked on the floor, wheels lined in neat rows, a workbench covered in tools. My weekend hobby was refurbishing old golf carts, but under fluorescent lights. It looked dangerously close to a chop shop. Karen gasped as she just found buried treasure. I knew it. The tall officer stepped inside, scanning the space. "You fix up golf carts?" "Yeah," I said quickly. "I buy old ones, repair them, and resell. All legal. I have receipts." Karen wasn't having it. "Receipts can be faked," she snapped. Then she jabbed a finger toward a silver fender propped against the wall. "And look, that's from my SUV." I walked over, picked it up, and turned it so the whole crowd could see the faded club car logo stamped on the side. "It's from a 2014 golf cart," I said flatly. "Not your car." The shorter officer took it, studied it, and nodded. "Yeah, definitely not automotive." Karen crossed her arms, mumbling something about conspiracies and cover-ups. I thought the situation was finally cooling off right up until the tall officer spotted something in the corner. "What's under that tarp?" he asked. My stomach sank. Not because it was illegal, just because it was weird. And my hesitation absolutely did not help my case. You're not going to believe me," I admitted as I pulled the tarp back. Underneath it was a half-built mini DeLorean golf cart, stainless steel panels, tiny gullwing doors, the works. The entire crowd gasped in perfect unison. Someone yelled, "Back to the Future." Karen lunged forward. "See, he's hiding luxury vehicles in here." "It's not a real car," I said, exasperated. "It doesn't even run yet." The officers exchanged that look, half amusement, half exhaustion. "All right," the tall one said. "We'll run a quick check on your inventory just to be sure." While they started jotting down serial numbers, Karen stepped away and made another call. That's when I heard the sentence that made my stomach twist. "Hi, this is Karen. I need a tow truck immediately." It froze. "Tow truck?" I stepped toward her. "Karen, you can't tow my golf cart. It's on my property." She held up a finger like she was swatting at a mosquito. HOA bylaws clearly state that unauthorized vehicles may be removed if they violate community appearance standards. And this, she flailed at my driveway, is a violation. The tall officer intervened. "Ma'am, we haven't determined any violation yet," Karen smirked. "By the time you finish your investigation, the tow will already be here." The shorter officer shot me a sympathetic look. "She can call, but they can't legally take it without your consent unless they have a court order." That should have calmed me down. But the way Karen paced in circles, barking orders into her phone like a military commander, told me this was far from over. The neighbors were loving this. "Mrs. Lopez whispered to Mr. Johnson, $5 says this ends up on the neighborhood Facebook page." 15 minutes later, a deep rumble rolled through the street as a massive flatbed tow truck turned the corner, its hydraulic arm gleaming in the sun. The driver stepped out, blinking at the scene as if he'd walked onto a TV set. "I was told there's a stolen SUV to pick up?" he asked, confused. Karen marched toward him. "It's been stripped into that golf cart. Loaded up." The tow driver squinted at my cart, then at his paperwork. "Ma'am, this says silver SUV. That's because he altered it." She shrieked. The tall officer sighed and approached the driver. "Sir, There's no lawful order to remove this. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. But Karen wasn't done. She planted herself in front of my driveway like a human barricade. If you won't tow it, she said, I'll push it into the street, and then you can take it. A wave of gasps rippled through the crowd. I stepped forward. Touch my cart, and you'll be the one breaking the law. The driver, clearly unpaid for this level of drama, shook his head and climbed into his cab. Yeah, I'm out. The engine roared to life, and the flatbed rumbled away. Karen stood trembling with fury, glaring at me like I'd caused all this on purpose. The tall officer finally spoke, firm and official. Ma'am, if you make any more false reports or interfere with his property, we'll have to cite you. Karen didn't reply. She spun around and stormed off toward her house. But as I turned to head inside, something caught my eye, something that sent a chill down my spine. Karen's SUV door was hanging wide open. At first, I assumed she'd left it open in her rage. But then I saw the shadowy outline of someone crouching inside her vehicle. Officers, I called, pointing. Both cops turned instantly. The tall one's hand flew to his radio. We've got movement in that vehicle. Karen, halfway up her driveway, whipped around. What? She bolted toward the SUV, screaming, That's my car. Get out. The figure inside, tall, wearing a faded hoodie, looked up like a startled raccoon. Then he flung the door open and took off down the street. The tall officer broke into a sprint after him, radios crackling. The cul-de-sac exploded into chaotic chatter. Karen was frozen, clutching her chest. He was stealing my car, she whispered, stunned. Mrs. Lopez muttered from her lawn chair. Guess these days no one's safe. Minutes later, the officers returned with the suspect in cuffs. The hoodie guy was panting hard, refusing to look at Karen. The shorter officer spoke. Ma'am, we recovered some of your belongings from his backpack. Looks like he was attempting to hotwire your vehicle. Karen's face had drained of color. But I thought, she stopped herself, glancing at me. I couldn't resist. Guess you were so busy accusing me, you missed the actual thief. Her lips thinned. Karen never apologizes, but she did mutter, thank you for pointing it out. The tall officer turned to me. Sir, thank you for cooperating. And for the record, your golf cart hobby is perfectly legal. You're free to keep working. For the first time all day, I smiled. Glad to hear it. As the suspect was loaded into the squad car, Karen quietly backed her SUV into her driveway and slipped inside without making eye contact. The neighbors dispersed, some shaking their heads, others laughing about the spectacle they'd just witnessed. Mr. Johnson approached, watering can still in hand. Well, he said, if the HOA ever starts charging admission for this street, you'll be the star attraction. I laughed. Let's hope we get back to boring Saturdays. Later, as I coiled up the extension cord, I spotted Karen peeking through her blinds. Not glaring, just watching. Maybe she'd think twice before calling 911 again. Or maybe not. Karen was unpredictable like that. But one thing was certain. My golf cart survived. My name was cleared. And the neighborhood had a story they'd be retelling for years. Somewhere deep down, I suspected Karen learned a lesson even if she'd never admit it. If you enjoyed this wild HOA saga, hit that like button so more people find the video. Comment below, what would you do if Karen stormed into your driveway? And don't forget to subscribe, because trust me, around here, it's never boring.